3, 2, 1, and we should be live. Keith McWomble, give us the intro.
Well, I may be someone impersonating him at the moment with using a voice modulator. Because I've been feeling like, what was it I said on Discord the other day? I felt like realistically rendered 4K horse shit for the last week.
In 3D.
In 3D. I've been very ill. We are the Beerumverate, and I've been mainly drinking cough mixture and effervescent aspirin and other such things rather than beer.
That's a pretty wild name for a beer. They always have those crazy names.
Effervescent aspirin. That's a new one from Teneo Creek or Big Dog Brewery.
There you go.
Yeah. We're a group of guys from Resifted.net who like talking about good beer and video games, or cider, if you happen to be Michael. We're not here to promote drinking. Please drink responsibly, especially if you're ill. Just don't do it at all, like me, because it doesn't help your recovery. Top tip. Please like and subscribe. Got it that time.
Hit the bell so you get the notifications.
I'll miss that one. 66.666% isn't too bad, I suppose. It's a pass in some exams. We're talking about Red Dead Redemption 2. We're missing a couple of people who were meant to be on. Obviously, Mitch can't make it because it's about 2 o'clock in the morning. But we were meant to have Tomb Raiders on, but unfortunately, he's got something more important to do, which is prepping for a job interview. Good luck, Liam.
Good luck.
But we do have Michael back. Michael, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
You ready?
Nice to see you again. Yep.
Right. Evan, how was your European vacation? And did you have anything interesting to drink whilst you were over here? Doesn't have to be anything you drank with me.
Okay. Yeah, I had a good time. I went to England, spent a night in Switzerland to go see Liverpool beat Lyon and a friendly. And then I took a bus to France, had a disgusting beef tartare, which I did not know was raw meat. Took a bus back to.
You probably ordered a cooked steak, and they just gave you that.
That's the French for you. That's what they do.
There you go. Well, when I ate, there's an old guy sitting in the corner with like a beer, and he said something, and then everyone around us laughed, and I just said in English, I was like, "I'm guessing you guys are making fun of us, but that's all right." And then and then we went back to France, and then back to Switzerland, and then hopped on a plane back to England. Spent another week there. Went to central London proper. Had a lot of good real ales. That's one thing I do appreciate about the pubs. I mean, you can't find that in Japan. Like, there's no real ales in America either. I mean, you might get the old one bar that has like one pump, but
they're everywhere. Yeah.
Oh, they're everywhere. Yeah. So in general, I really became a fan of real ales, especially as like the more you drink, they're not carbonated, so you just don't get that like bloated feeling if you're going to have a long night out. Although, you get a proper pint, and that's something I'm not used to anymore, being in Japan and in the States.
Giant.
So it's like 20 ounces, right? Would be a proper pint. In the States, it's 16 ounces.
Yeah.
So just having like 4 beers, it's a lot. And it was nice to see you, Keith. I like how when you came on the Beerumverate, it's like, I finally met Evan. He's shorter than I thought, and his shirts are too tight. All right, moving on. It's like, nice to see you too. We had a good time. Yeah, thanks for that, buddy.
I did say you were as handsome in real life as you were on the internet.
I don't remember that.
Did you just forget that bit?
He did.
Yeah, probably. I absorbed the negative, and then I cry myself to sleep. It's the only way I can sleep nowadays.
I can't be nice all the time. I have to fight that urge to be nice about people all the time.
Got to stop yourself and balance it out.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm being overly nice. I got to destroy them very quickly so I feel better. Yeah. It was great to see you. And then to kind of move this conversation on, the best beer, or at least the most memorable beer I had, I went to walking around central London, around the theater area, and right across from like, there's like a Harry Potter play going on. There's a proper Brewdog pub where they specifically owned or run by Brewdog, and they just sell Brewdog beer. And in Japan, you can only get a couple of their beers. So they just had like so many varieties of beers. I had one called Vocation, which it was like an experimental pale ale or a red ale. I actually don't remember, but it was by far the best beer that I had there. It was just one of those beers, like it smells amazing. It hits your tongue and just like, you just experience all these, your just tongue goes nuts for this flavor. And then it's got this crisp aftertaste. It's not watery. It's got this bite, this citrusy aroma, this bite. So yeah, had a really good time. Drank way too much, despite still having jet lag after a week and a half. I've been running every day to try to tire myself out, but and lose all the beer weight that I got. But yeah, it was a good trip. I'm glad I went. It was good to see a little bit of Europe. It was my first time, so.
If you want to tire yourself out and sleep a lot, you could try the influenza diet, which is what I've been doing.
At this point, I might hope to be sick for a week so I could at least fall asleep. There's no Sudafed in Japan. There's an ingredient in there that's illegal in Japan, so I can't like knock myself out with strong American, like probably debilitating meds.
Right.
Yeah. Good one.
Rumors. So after my announcement that Jared Padalecki was actually the TriCaster from Gameface, now that he's finished filming Supernatural, we've not seen him again. That's because I got an email from his agent saying that I'd ousted him and then he had to quit the show. So that's why Jared's not been back on. Because his side hustle, learning how to operate a TriCaster for Shane, was up, because I got the scoop on that one. But I did hear that Rockstar, trying to get us back on topic, are going to implement a new gameplay mechanic because of the success of having to cut your hair and shave your beard and stroke your horse and clean your horse and feed your horse for Red Dead Redemption 3 and GTA 6, which is going to be finger and toenail cutting.
I like
Nice.
it.
Wow.
This is really going to improve the simulation experience.
It is. It's going to make things more realistic. If you don't cut your fingernails regularly enough, you can't shoot it straight. It makes it harder for you to pick stuff up. And if you don't cut your toenails enough, you can't run as fast. So there you go. There's a new gameplay mechanic. And also, if you cut them back too far, it starts taking your health away every time you run, because your toes hurt.
I assume it's in your interest to leave them to grow so you can actually dig faster for treasure chests.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's going to be an Assassin's Creed.
Or worms for bait when fishing, stuff like that.
Yeah, hooking worms on.
Now, I will never, in Red Dead 3, I will never cut my toenails or my fingernails. Or my stash. I'm going full animal in this one, just running around and mauling people. It's like take the guns out of it, kind of a new thing. Just strictly melee combat. I'm all right with that.
One thing that we do have
you
to
can
do.
shave them down into points, and
there you go, file them down. Yeah.
It's a whole new piece of realism that they haven't explored yet.
Nice. I like it.
It's coming. They've got people rendering 4K fingernails right now.
4K fingernails.
Sounds.
And B vitamins to make them grow faster.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
There you go. So how did you know about it?
We're all in the know. We're in this industry, right?
Right, Michael, you're the only one else on here who's got a rumor.
Yeah, so my insider at Rockstar found out that now that they've been exposed with how they've been avoiding or straight out not paying their taxes, they are going to use that money for the Bully sequel. And it turns out, like, once in a while they are caught in action that They're like not paying taxes, and this is how we get these side IPs. They need to launder the money, and so that's how they made LA Noire, the Midnight Club games. Like they have these side IPs we don't see a lot of, and once they sit on too much money, they make a new side IP.
Just like to point out that we don't believe that what they're doing is illegal under the laws of the United Kingdom. So technically, it wouldn't be money laundering. Just in case any of their lawyers are watching.
Right. Okay. Nice disclaimer. Yeah, and also on a side note,
we don't want to end up like that bloke from with Take Two, and not that we're as successful.
Oh yeah, that guy that's the Borderlands 3.
The Borderlands 3 guy.
Yeah. That's sad. He's going to be forever known as Borderlands 3 guy.
Yeah.
For the rest of his life.
Borderlands 3 guy. He will. He totally will. Borderlands 3 guy.
And Death Stranding will launch on PC exclusively on the Epic Games Store.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That might actually happen though.
Yep. That is totally possible.
That's probably out of all of the rumors that we've come up with on this daft piece of crap that we call a show.
Crap. It's pretty good.
That's the one that could actually come true.
We should actually do some beers too. Because I know
I've got something that I need to say first. Sorry, Matt. We keep interrupting you, but it's related to us keeping interrupting you.
It's all right.
So I was watching a bit of the show with Shane on back, and my wife said to me, Matt seems nice, why don't you let him talk more?
I like your wife. She's slowly becoming one of my favorite people.
That is a good question.
Yeah. So I think so of the fans of the show, I don't even think I'm my wife's favorite person at this rate. So yeah, there you go. You've got one fan.
I'll take it. I'll take what I can get.
Right, beers.
Yes. So, Michael, you have a special beer.
I have a surprise. I went out and bought Stone. Yeah. It will be my first IPA drink.
Ever.
Yeah. Are you serious?
Yep.
First IPA ever. It's a breakfast IPA.
Yeah.
And it's Stone, who turns the hops dial up to a 12.
Yeah.
Just so you know, this is not necessarily what an average IPA will smell like or taste like. So just be prepared for that. Don't let it.
I went hardcore on it, although I kept in mind to.
That's how Michael lives. I went hardcore.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. This is the first IPA reaction I've ever seen on YouTube. So let's.
You're going to have a live reaction to me tasting.
Live reaction. Thank you.
IPA, a very hardcore one, apparently. As I said, I kept in mind to search for a session one, given the timely hour at which we're recording, at least for us in the EK. So just watch my face. It's not that. It's bitter, but oh yeah, I need to leave it a bit. Okay. I can feel the citrus in it. Not bad. Yeah.
It's a glowing endorsement.
It's not bad. It's a little bitter, but not bad.
It's different. It's different from my fruit beers, of course.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, from what you said, Evan, I actually expected worse. But
I've never had that one before, Michael. I'm wondering if it's a go-to IPA, like you said.
Yeah,
it's more of a IPA, so they've toned down their usual
they must have.
Okay.
It's still
that's good.
It's still Stone though.
Yeah, so I've never had it. I don't know, but
right.
I mean, if you're not like, wow, this is heavy type of thing, then they probably toned it down a bit more. Like
if the hops are not eating the enamel on your teeth.
There you go.
Yeah.
Nah. But like I can feel the taste like creeping all the way
Yeah, that bitterness tends to stick to the back of your tongue, and like the more you drink it, the more it tends to like linger there and intensify. I guess depending on the IPA, but yeah. Well, good. Your first
I
IPA.
stepped over. I stepped the line. I stepped into the light.
I like it. Yeah, Michael shared that before we got on stream, and I was like, "Oh, I'm excited for this."
Yeah.
Once you finish it, you'll have to like butt into our topic of the show conversation just to give your overall impressions of having consumed a full go-to IPA.
Yeah.
Should I do mine next quickly?
Yeah, I've got a short story to go along with mine, so.
Okay, mine will be quick. So my significant other just came back from Italy.
That looks
No,
like a Moretti.
why did I go up on Italy? She did get back from Italy yesterday. Yeah, it
Did
must have been
yesterday exist?
Who knows at this point? I'm on an hour and a half of sleep. This is actually probably sold in the UK. I've never seen it in Japan. It's
Beerumverate.
Moretti. Yeah, it's a box, so it's 7.2%. I actually probably saw it while I was there, but she got a 3-pack.
7.2 is high.
Yeah, for even for a bock, like, so I've actually never had this beer. I'm pretty sure I saw it while I was in the UK. I also got this lovely, wow, you can't see shit on this. I apologize for this lighting. Big Smoke Brewery, which is
Oh, you got a glass from the pub?
Yeah, I got it. They gave it to me for free because they're trying to get rid of their old glasses. Apparently, they have a new design. So I mentioned how much I like the design, and he had said, "Hey, or take it." So I'm gonna pour it into here, and get some of that head. Let that beer breathe. Holy shit, that is a terrible pour. We're gonna let that settle for a bit. Matt, do you...
That's a demonstration. So I should buy glasses for the next one.
So,
yeah, Matt, how about you?
so my wife works for a restaurant, right? And they had a tasting with Tenaya Creek that she didn't tell me about. She was like, yeah, some brewery in town is hosting this tasting and I got to go to it. So I came home Wednesday night and just sat at home and read my comics because it was New Comic Book Day. And then she texted me and she's like, oh, it's Tenaya Creek. And by the way, I'm sitting next to the brewmaster.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, yeah, that dude follows me on Twitter. It's El Jefe. And she was like, I don't think that's who it is. I'm like, ask him. I was like, ask him if he's El Jefe on Twitter. So she did. Yes, it was El Jefe from Tenaya Creek. And they were drinking El Charro, which is what I have tonight.
Oh, nice. Have you had it before?
I have not. This is a newer brew by them, and it's a Mexican lager.
So, like, is it like craft brew Mexican lager? So it's, or is it just, does it, I don't know.
Yeah, it's craft brew. It's like they brewed it with like a sweet malt. So It's a very easy drinking, not highly carbonated. By the way, I got a couple of pint glasses because she was there. So
nice.
I have a set of 4 pint glasses now to Tenaya Creek.
I thought you were going to say, was it your wife texted you and said it's Tenaya Creek, and you said, right, I'm getting in the car now.
Well, it was a limited seating thing. So like they only had so many tickets. Like I couldn't go. Like her boss. So her boss told her about it, and he immediately was like, "No, Matt can't go," because he knew. And I was like,
she knew what you would do.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, we went tonight. We went to the tasting room, and I ended up picking up the El Charro Mexican lager. So that is what I'm drinking tonight. It's a sweet malt. It's extremely easy to drink. It's 4.9%, I believe. So it's a little bit on the lighter end. Great summer beer. And so that's mine. And now we should get into Red Dead, because that's what everybody really wants to hear us talk about, right?
Probably not.
A couple people on Sifted do love the beer reviews.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, we'll have to do a proper one at some point, because normally I just get a beer and it's like, yeah, it's good. I don't care. Either that or it's a fruit beer. What the hell am I doing to myself?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like how, like, when we met and me knowing you, we're just like, hey, the first beer I'm gonna order at the Antelope is gonna be a fruit beer. You're like, I don't like this at all. I was like, why'd you order it? You fucking hate those beers. trying to dip your toes in new beers, try it out, I suppose. But yeah,
there must be one out there. And it was a hot day, and
that's true.
It did sound in the description that it was refreshing. And then it's just bloody awful. But the other one that we had was really nice. I can't remember what that was called though. You know where else you can drink beer?
Where?
In the canteens and on Red Dead Redemption 2.
It's a good segue. Right. I like it.
Yeah. Right. So Red Dead Redemption 2 is a game, and we talk about those.
Yes.
And
from time to time.
Yeah, every now and then. So I put some categories down on the Google Doc. Do we want to go through these? Does anyone want to jump in? I'm not stuck on what we want to talk about first, but is there anything that people really want to get off their chest?
Yeah.
Obviously, save final thoughts and personal scores till last.
Right. Yeah, I mean, do we want to do like an introduction to like how much of the game we've played and then jump into these sections?
Well, Matt hasn't played any of it.
Yeah.
So, but we'll still try and let him talk.
Yeah, that is not a good start for letting Matt talk. I guess you could play like the fish out of the water story that asks questions about the game so that we can relay specific things to the audience.
There are aspects of this that I think Matt would like.
Sure.
Like it's a game about loss of freedom, but everyone's got guns. So
there you
I'm
go.
not even gonna touch that.
Yeah. That was me fishing for a comment. So what I've got down in terms of categories: mechanics and gameplay, the world and tech. So that's the what they've done in terms of building the world of Red Dead Redemption 2, characters and story, thoughts for a next game, and then final thoughts and personal scores. So what I'll probably do is kick off with world and tech probably, and anything else. And it is a very well-rounded world that they built. There's a lot of life in it compared to the first game. So there's much more to see, and it's visually quite spectacular. Until you actually dig into some of the things that could be potentially wrong with the world. Like it's populated with the angriest people who have ever lived. So to give you an example of what I'm talking about, so I happened to walk one step outside of a canteen in one of the towns, and I just stood still because I was looking at people walking up and down the street, and then I heard someone say, "Watch what you're doing, mister." And I would do a kind of yeehaw hillbilly accent, but can't right now.
Watch what you're doing, mister.
Exactly. And I didn't know, because there was nothing to visually tell me that they were talking to me. I just carried on standing there watching things going up and down, checking my inventory. And then suddenly someone either punched or kicked me in the back, and I flew into the street. And then, and so I ended up in a fight. I beat the shit out of the guy who punched me into the street. And then suddenly I'm wanted by the sheriff.
Sounds like Skyrim.
Yeah,
I didn't kill him or anything. I just beat the shit out of him. But
a lot of what happens in this game that's probably different from Skyrim is it's like complete accident, or you didn't mean to poke the world with a stick until it got mad at you. You just walk into these situations where you kind of throw your hands up like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I don't know how far we want to get into that, because a lot of this stuff for me has to do with controls. But in terms of atmosphere, McWomble, I will say that those stories are funny after the fact.
Yeah,
right.
They're frustrating as hell when you're doing it.
Yeah, and eventually you'll tell this. I mean, I'm sure all of us have a story. I've got plenty of stories. I remember I was just trying to get something done, and it just shit went wild. And then for some reason, I'm jumping into the river while the Pinkertons are shooting at me, and I'm like being carried by the current. And it's funny when you tell it on play and to your friends later, but at the time, there's a lot of that technical stuff that does get in the way of the game. It's just a lot of systems meeting, and it just doesn't quite work out very well. And I don't know, like your Fallouts and I guess even Skyrim, where some of that you can see the seams of the game. But yeah.
But overall, sorry, just to pick up on something that Evan said, the atmosphere of the world is there. They've captured it. And the atmosphere in terms of going from one biome to another, and the lighting changes, and it gets hazy when you go from, say, open plain to kind of semi forest into full blown swamp. The transition of that is so smooth, and the lighting in the game is absolutely spectacular.
Oh yeah, I mean,
sorry, Michael, I stepped on your line.
No, it's all right. What I wanted to say, it's true. Like, so many mechanics are blended in together, and it takes many hours for you to figure out what you can safely do and what you cannot. But the presentation of the game is I consider it faultless. I mean, it's very polished. It's ridiculously polished, in my opinion.
Even down to the rendered horseshit.
Yeah, especially that. It's worth exploring. What I did, because I ran out of time to invest in this game, I actually kept watching YouTube videos of all these secret encounters and mysteries of the world, and it's insane just how many of them there are.
You're gonna miss so much of this game. I did the same thing. I was like, I didn't know that was in the game. Never ran into that.
There's this ghost in the slums, and you need to come back every time at a certain hour. Like, if you're not using a guide, you won't know. Like, so many interesting and creepy and mysterious things happen constantly. It's insane. The part I love the most about the world in this game is that everything feels handpicked. It's not like this handful of assets that are being replaced all over the map. And
that is true. It does not seem like a copy and paste asset game at all.
There's no towers for you to climb to unlock sections of the map.
No,
it's a topic for another episode.
Even the branding, like, although unlike GTA, which has managed to build brands for the products in that world, we've only think of little enterprises, whatever was possible back then. It's a very well crafted world.
And little things as well, like having a locked door at the back of a doctor's shop.
Yeah.
And you can go and knock on the door and someone will open it up and they'll ask you for a password, and then you don't know what it is, so you guess, and they'll just slam the shutter closed on you. But what you can do is go in and threaten the doctor to get him to open the door on the inside, and you can rob the people who are laundering money out the back of the doctor's surgery. So it's little things like that if you weren't paying attention, you just totally miss.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I will say, in terms of world building and making this world feel as lived in as a video game world can possibly be. This happens in a lot of games, or like when you see advertisements for a game, or like devs talking about it, and you're like, wow, the possibilities in this game. It's going to feel different than your average video game. And once you get into it, you immediately see like what's behind the curtain, like the the steel bars that hold the game up. I'm like, oh, okay, this is like your open world. There's like Spider-Man. There's kind of like 5 side quests that you can do, and then there's story missions. Like there aren't that many possibilities. One thing that this game does is it just makes interesting things in different sections of the world, that those little things you're talking about, like that. Or there's another one where I went into a place to buy some, I don't know if it was a sundry shop or like a gun shop, and as I'm walking out, I did a U-turn, and I walked down a path on the side of the building, and then I hear, "Psst, you gotta help me out, mister." And I look, and there's someone in that building in the basement. It's like, this guy's keeping me hostage, you gotta help me, I'm chained to this bed. I was like, what the fuck? Okay, so I went back in and I talked to the guy, and then nothing happens. But if you draw your gun, Arthur Morgan will say, "Hey, let me take a look what's in that basement." He's like, all right. And then he opens the basement door, and you go down there, and there's this kid all like prettied up like a 12-year-old boy locked to this bed. And then you find out he kidnapped this guy because his son died, and it was the closest thing that he wanted to keep him there because it reminded him of his son. And you let the guy go, and then the owner of the shop just like breaks down and just starts crying. He's like, "The chest's over in the corner, take what you want, I don't care anymore." And then you just like steal all of his stuff and walk out. And I was like, man, that was weird. But like you were saying, Keith, like with your story, there's all these little things where like, if I would have walked straight out of that shop and went right, I never would have run into that kid, never would have got my attention, and I would have completely missed that little story. And there's a lot of that in this game.
Yeah, there's so many of them. We could spend this entire thing just going through all of the little
it's hard not to, yeah.
But it's that, for me, it's juxtaposed by how ornery everyone is. So you could just be riding along in the world, and then you say, "Howdy, mister," and there's and it's someone, you just ride alongside someone for a bit, and if they'll give you kind of one warning to get out of their personal space, and if you keep going, they'll just start shooting. And if you kill them, you're wanted for murder. He was like, hang on, this fucker I was just riding along trying to have a conversation with him, and he just starts shooting me, so I kill the bastard, and now I'm wanted for murder.
Yeah, I will say one thing about Rockstar games in general is like, whether that be GTA or Red Dead Redemption, like their worlds are just they're so mean-spirited, which doesn't necessarily bother me on like some sort of moral level or whatever, but it gets really tiring how everyone is like the biggest piece of shit. Like the only likable character for me in GTA 5 was Franklin, because he's the only one that had like decent morals, and he wasn't just like a horrible person. Like Michael sucks, Trevor's there so that if you want it,
crazy people can do crazy shit.
Yeah, because a lot of times with like an honor system, it doesn't make sense that Franklin or Michael would be that crazy. So it's like, okay, if you don't feel comfortable doing that with them, you switch to Trevor and do all the crazy shit, like throw Molotov cocktails at old women walking with Starbucks coffees down the street.
All right. So the one thing that I will ask is part of what...
No interrupting now.
Part of what threw me off, and the reason that I haven't played this game, is because all of the reviews suggested that this was far more simulation than it was open world game.
We'll get to a bit of that. I'd say it's probably 60-40. I wouldn't say it's that much of a sim. There are some really tedious things that they try and get you to do. So if you're back at your base camp with the rest of the outlaws, they're trying to basically escape the creeping society. So they're in this kind of, they've left what would be in effect California because of creeping society. So they're moving back east.
Okay.
But then they've got the encroachment from that side as well, so they feel trapped. And they do quite a good job in terms of telling that as a story. There's one element of the story that I just think was totally half-assed, but I'll get onto that in a sec. But they get you to do these things to build up your morality meter. So if you do chores like picking up sacks of flour and moving them over to where the cook station is, your bar goes up like 1%. if you get water to clean, if you pick up hay bales and take them to the horses station, your morality meter goes up a bit. But it's just, this is so fucking tedious.
Those are optional though. I only discovered them very late in the game. You don't really need to do, like, I mean, you could do them, but it's not a good way to grind on your stats like that. And your meters are going to deplete anyways.
Well, it just, when I see it, because I did the same thing, it's when you move from your camp to like the old manor, I started doing that, like transporting the I don't even know what they're, baskets or like bags of seed or whatever. And I'm just like, why is this even in the game? Like, no one wants to do this.
To move your morality meter up a little bit.
It's so fucking slow. You know why other games don't do this? It's because no one wants to do it. No one wants to brush their fucking teeth for 2 minutes. No one wants to clip their nails. Like, yeah, if I have to go,
they will
to
in the next game.
No, it'll be in the next game, but no one's gonna want to fucking do it. If you want to go to the barber, if I have to directly go to the barber to get my haircut, that's fine. That's a level of realism that can pull me into the world. But if I'm like slowly walking through camp already, like I can't run to the second floor to get something from Arthur's room. I'm just carrying these bags, which makes me more slow. It's like Rockstar, just cut the fat. Like, take this out of the game. Why is this even in here?
So that's the sim bits that kind of draw
there's a lot
you
of
out.
that. But Michael's right. Okay, Michael's right. Like, I do agree with him. I would say cut all that shit out because it's fucking boring and no one wants to do it. But it does build a more realistic world, and most of it is optional. So I think you're right about that.
One aspect of that is quite interesting is that you get, if you do it, you get different bits of dialogue later down the line. So it's that thing about making that realistic world. So if you do say a full set of chores around the camp, which takes about 15 minutes, probably longer actually, because they make you walk so bloody slowly doing it. You'll hear different bits of dialogue from the different members of the camp to say, "Oh, why can't you do that?" And see, Arthur's putting in some hard work. Why can't you? And just hearing those little things that otherwise you would never have had. Not that it affects any of the major story beats later down the line, but it's just an extra level of stuff that Rockstar have chosen to put in.
This is the thing I appreciate about the game, because it has things that, as Evan said, make no sense in the game because they offer no real reward. But that's another level of immersivity, because I was pretty far into the game when I first did that, and I only did that because I wanted to fool around and immerse myself. And just as McWomble said, it offers new pieces of dialogue, which for me at least, it's very important. I wanted to interact with these characters, and seeing their reaction, I think I've done it a few times. Every now and then when I went back to the camp just to see if there's any form of progression, I didn't regret doing it. But it's just the thing that it's like, does anyone remember when the first Watch Dog trailer was like the first proper introduction to that game was shown?
Yep.
And they were like,
you go to that nightclub, right? And you meet your friend, maybe?
No, what I want to talk about is when they showed you that if you do something illegal in a local, the clerk will bend underneath the table and sound the alarm for police to come your way. Well, in they would not advertise that in a Rockstar game. They want to let you discover that. Like, imagine if the trailer said, like, you can move hay in the camp. It's something for you to discover. It's something like I think it adds more value. Like, they didn't have to do this, but they did, and things like that are all over the world. Like, you find interaction with that world whenever you expect less. Like,
yeah, and they've hidden quite a lot of stuff there, and like you were saying, Michael, there's stuff that you won't other people would never discover. Did you two find the witch's cauldron?
No.
See,
I probably didn't find half of what's in this game.
So
like,
I was just riding around on Clive. I named my horse Clive. And the horse bonding thing, that was a load of crap. Why didn't they just have different attributes and leave it at that? All the stuff about you've got to spend so many bloody hours feeding it and cleaning it, and like it didn't make that much difference to me.
Are we going to set aside an area for like technical mysteries and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's this bit.
Okay. One thing. I never knew when your horse was clean. I was like, kept brushing it. I'm like, is it clean yet? There's still dust coming off of its ass. Like, tell me when it's fucking clean. Give me a meter. Give me something. I keep brushing.
Do you know how to find out? The only way to find out if your horse is actually clean is to go into the menus.
Oh, fuck off. Those menus suck.
And go to the player stats, and into the player stats you can pick up your horse, and then if you look at your horse, it says its mood, and if it's clean or not.
Well, that's the thing. Oh, immersion. So there's nothing in real life. Like, can I do a pause menu now and to see if I'm like mad or not?
No, but you can pull up the spreadsheet.
Why is it hidden under 3? The menus look good. They look good. They're polished. It looks nice. But Rockstar is so far up its own ass when it comes to little details like this. Like, they can't pull away and see the bigger picture of like, just tell me when the horse is happy. Like, have the horse like kind of and like, okay, he's good. I'm done brushing him. Why do I have to go through 3 menu systems to know what its mood is?
I think for immersivity's sake, what they've done to make the game more realistic was by adding all these little actions that you could do that you're never really sure they are done, just like they are meaningless, just like in real life.
I mean, some things are
stroking my horse in real life is so meaningless.
Yeah, some things are meaningful, like things that, like, you know, let's just say you want incendiary bullets or something in a game, like you go to a vendor, you buy them.
Oh, that crafting's fucking pain in the ass. I never did any of it.
Well, that's my point. In this game, it's like, oh, I want to craft some bullets that like impact bullets that, like, you know, explode on impact. So like I have to camp and I have to wait for the loading screen or whatever, and then he's on his knee, and then I go through this menu system and I select bullets. And it's like, you know why in most games that like they don't have you like craft a bullet one piece at a time by tapping a button doing this?
Because it's really dull.
Nobody wants to do that. No one. That is like,
yeah.
They have such an issue with putting things in the game where they don't know what to take out because it's inconsiderate to the player, or they don't realize like the reason that this type of thing is not in most games is because nobody wants to do that. Like, you can get close to real life in terms of immersion in other aspects, but they don't even play by their own rules. And this is something that Jim Sterling brought up is, okay, you can select 3 outfits to put on your horse. Now, when you're on your horse, if you're just like riding really quickly, you can hold a button down and like choose one of your outfits. Let's just say you go into a cold region. It's like, okay, your health is going down because you don't have a jacket on. If you try to switch to your cold outfit, it's like you're moving too fast. You can only switch your clothing if the horse is at a complete stop or a trot. So when you stop your horse, when you switch to the clothing, it automatically appears on your character. So they want to have their cake and eat it too, but what they choose to make arcadey or like be considerate to the player and make it and fast track it is completely unbalanced. And they choose when it's a pain in the ass, and other times they don't. It's like, well, if you knew that it would have been a pain in the ass for like a loading screen to go or Arthur to get off his horse and put his jacket on and then reload, then why have most of the stuff in the game where you have to pause at camp and create individual impact bullets? Like, they realized that changing an outfit would be a pain in the ass, so that it would be immediate. Why didn't they do that with most of the stuff in the game? Just to like, just keep it going. Like, I don't want to spend that much time doing that.
I don't think Rockstar are actually able to take anything out of any game ever, which is why all of the stuff that was in GTA 3 is still present in this game.
I mean, they're Rockstar. They can kind of do whatever they want, I guess, but there's got to be a balance between choosing the more arcadey aspect, like making it a video game. It is a video game. I understand the immersion part of it, and a lot of that stuff works well, and that's why the game is so atmospheric, like we said, and the world seems so real. But there has to be a point when there's some things in the game like making bullets or switching your outfits and all this stuff. It's like, look, no one wants to go through these menial tasks. It's why there's no toothbrushing in games except for like, I don't know, what's that? Not Extra Rain. What the fuck is that called?
Heavy Rain.
Heavy Rain.
Extra Rain. What a lame game for a game. Like, no one wants to do that in games. So like, I just really wish they would have like looked at the bigger picture and said, okay, this is immersive for a reason. All this menial shit is like 20% of the players are going to stop and make coffee at a camp because they want to be immersed in the game. 80% of the players are not going to do that because it doesn't fucking matter. So how about we just take that out, trim all the fat off the game, and release it like 2 years early?
Right. And on that note, we're going to start talking about characters and story, because I think we spent long enough talking about.
Yeah, that's definitely a more positive angle on this game, I will say. All right, yeah, fair enough.
So I seem to.
Will it be a spoiler-free discussion, or are we going full in?
Full spoilers. I don't even care.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Spoiler alert is in full effect. Everyone dies.
Okay, I'll.
Can I just go before getting onto the positive stuff? I want to get something out of the way.
Yeah.
Do
definitely.
you two think that the section of the game in what is Rockstar's version of Cuba seemed totally out of place? It's unnecessary, and actually it looked as though it didn't technically work correctly in certain aspects. So some of the cutscenes didn't look as polished or as well rendered as the rest of the game.
I don't know. What do you think, Michael? What did you think about the Cuba section?
I didn't notice a drop in quality.
Neither did I, actually. I don't know.
I don't know if it was just a technical glitch on my end, but all of the cinematic scenes when they were on Cuba just looked worse than the rest of the game.
Just for a bit of context, Matt, there's probably 3.
There's 9 chapters. So I'm talking about one of the chapters about about a third of the way through.
Okay.
Yeah, the whole group you've moved camp several times because you keep doing bad shit, and then people start finding out, so you have to move camp. Eventually, the Vanderlyn
gang
has an idea of all right, let's get on a ship and start anew somewhere else. We're thinking somewhere tropical. We're going to go to Cuba. They don't specifically mention Cuba, but they get on a ship. They get shipwrecked in Cuba, and then you have like an hour and a half in Cuba, and then you go straight back to the regular map. So it
makes no sense.
It's a bit of a head scratcher.
Weird.
Yeah.
Are you able to?
I liked some of the Cuba stuff.
Are you able to go back there?
How quick it is. No, you never go back. You
no,
can.
because I understand why they did it, because it's the start of Dutch's psychosis kicking in.
Oh, totally. He's got a plan. He changes gears. You're yeah.
Yeah, and it's the start of his kind of rampant paranoia, because you go to rob the. Oh no! Is it after you have a fight with the Italian mobster in Saint Denis, and you need to escape no matter how? And the gang is all split up, and you and a few others get on this boat. Doesn't matter where it's going. You just need to get out of the port town.
Is that after the bank robbery in
yeah.
Saint?
No, it's not after the bank robbery. I don't think.
Michael, do you remember?
There's so much shit going on in the story. It's difficult to actually remember everything that's going on.
I just remember it's getting.
Yeah, I think it's before because
because I know
because John Marston doesn't get arrested until later on in the game, and that was at the bank robbery.
Yeah.
But I understand why they tried to set it up, but they could have set up Dutch's paranoia without having to take you on a boat ride to a tropical island for you to get a boat ride back an hour and a half later.
I wonder what they were actually going to do with that whole Cuba thing.
It seems like it's tacked on, and that's why I was asking about. Did you actually have any technical difficulties with it? Because it looked to me as though it's like, right, we were going to do more with this, but we ran out of ideas.
I see what you're saying. I personally didn't, Michael. How about
you? Dutch at least was always talking about wanting to go to Tahiti, so I think they wanted to do something on this front and actually have them take a boat, but because I don't think they really wanted you to go to Tahiti, so they implemented in the story this whole plot that you're actually shipwrecking to Cuba. So it was a failed attempt, and then at the end of that chapter you find the means to return.
Yeah,
which wasn't well paced. I agree with that.
But it does.
Wait,
it
hold on.
does
To
set
save
up.
us. Oh, go ahead.
Shut up.
Sorry, Keith.
It does set up the start of Dutch's kind of spiral into rampant paranoia, because it was then he said someone must have talked, and how did they know that we were going to be there? Oh, they got set up. They went to rob the stage station. They thought there was going to be loads of money there, and there was nothing.
There was nothing
and
there.
Then,
That's right.
And then Bronte's people showed up to kill them all.
There's a story reason for this, but why did they have to go to Cuba for Dutch's paranoia story arc to happen, type of thing, right?
And it kicks off, and this is where Arthur starts seeing him for the crazy bastard that he actually is when he kills that old woman. So this old woman. So Cuba is run by this military dictator, and the general population are subjected to
It's like
military rule.
It's almost like a plantation, and they're like the slaves that work
forced labor, everything
forced
like that.
labor. Yeah.
And this old lady shows Dutch a secret path that he can sneak into the old Spanish castle, and then just as he gets there, he just shoots the woman in the head. And so he and Arthur have this big conversation. He said, I couldn't risk her talking. And it was from that point on that he's just going downhill in terms of paranoia.
Right. Yeah. So one thing I think is, I think it has some more to do with Arthur's turn on being very suspicious of Dutch, because I would argue that you're totally right. Like that's the turning point. But what someone else could argue that the turning point in Dutch's, or the start of the catalyst, I guess, in Dutch's psychosis is before the game even starts in Blackwater, when he kills an innocent woman on the ferry, and that's what kind of starts there.
You don't see that, Matt. It's talked about, but you don't actually ever find out what happened in.
Yeah, the game starts with them escaping to the north because it's called the Blackwater Massacre. Some heist in Blackwater went wrong and the entire gang had to escape Blackwater. You later learn that Dutch, I don't know exactly what happened with the money, but Dutch kills an innocent woman, and that is probably the main turning point in Dutch's, like, he lost his humanity when he killed an innocent person. Arthur is such a loyal character that he probably didn't see it, because his whole thing is about loyalty. That's what Arthur says. He's like, I care about loyalty and nothing else. And I think, Keith, you're right. It's probably around the time in Cuba when Arthur started finally, because I think he was just like not indoctrinated, but he didn't believe Dutch had lost his humanity, and he was kind of becoming like going down this downward spiral. And I think maybe that point when he saw that happen in Cuba, that he started to slowly realize, okay, my suspicions have been proven. I need to walk away from this guy because it's unsafe, and he's irredeemable as a person.
Have some goddamn faith, Arthur.
Oh man.
You play as Arthur, right?
Yep.
Okay.
I thought when they first introduced a new character, I was like, how could anyone ever play as anyone other than John Marston? It's just not going to work. Having played the entire game, I think Arthur Morgan is only second to Kazuma Kiryu as the best. That's as far as that needs to go, as the best character in a video game ever. And
Yeah.
I
He's
never
a
thought that would happen.
brilliant character. He's much better than John Marston. You do actually play as John Marston at the end of the game, which is quite possibly one of the dullest sections of the game as well.
As much as they shit on the game, I actually quite liked it. I'm sorry, Michael. Go ahead. How did you feel about that?
Sorry, just end your thought, because we're going to enter to a new section of conversation with that. What happens after during the John Marston section? So yeah.
Oh yeah. You can back it up a bit for sure.
Oh, okay, I'll go. So what I found, because it's not the only game where it switches protagonists at the end. What I found interesting, because it's the first game that I've seen to actually address this. You know how in some games at the end you find yourself playing as a different character or the same character but a little bit backwards in time because at the very end they die or whatever. The world, like if you've got side questions, side missions, either untouched or if you're in the middle of the chain of submissions, the game addresses that. The game addresses that it's a different character.
Right.
I found that mind-blowing, that they actually took the time to do a second set of cutscenes for John Marston. So
the other good thing as well is because the story arc is you start off as kind of loyal second in command. Gradually, as Dutch gets more and more crazy, he starts viewing you as a threat rather than a friend. You find out that you've got TB and you're going to die, so you get this kind of whole new life perspective, and then you actively start undermining Dutch to the other members of the gang and saying, I think it's time for you to get out. Have you thought about going your own way? So you end up doing the thing that you said you would never do, which is kind of in effect betray Dutch, but you're not doing it in a violent way. You're doing it in a subversive way and in a way that you don't actually realize you're doing. So some of the paranoia that Dutch is feeling is actually real because you're doing it as the character.
Right, yeah.
And
we should probably, no, go ahead. But we should probably.
I was just going to say, what choice did you make at the end? So you get basically when I'm going to stop coughing.
Silence.
So basically, the Pinkertons catch up with you, and then there's someone must have tipped them off, and you thought you knew who it was, but it transpires later down the line that it was someone else, and you're given
Marston.
a choice. It wasn't John.
No, you're with him at the time, right? At the end of the game.
You're with John,
make a choice.
and you can either go with him to try and get the money that you've built up, or you tell John to flee and you try and fight off the Pinkertons and help John to get away.
I helped John.
Because of course you do. Evan, if you said you went back for the money, we're no longer friends.
Fuck no, I did not. I played this game, like, by the time I finished this game, my meter was all the way to the right. And I got the good ending, I guess you could say. One of my issues with this game is the honor meter, because I think it has no place in this game, especially in a game, what is it, 2018? When did that game come out? Last year?
Last year.
Yeah. I just think it's stupid to have an honor meter where you're not playing like Matt. In this game, you are playing a character that already has a personality and a past and likes and dislikes and all of these things. It's not someone that you've created. So then, like, it gets to a point in the game where, like I said in GTA 5, where, like, they put Trevor there for a reason. If you did not think that being that cruel to citizens would work for Michael and Franklin, you could choose to be Trevor and carry out your craziest fantasies in a video game.
So...
With Arthur Morgan, you can do all these things. You can just punch civilians. You can shoot people in cold blood. It does not make sense for the character that you would do any of that stuff.
Okay, so it doesn't matter that you can shave his beard and you can craft his coat and all that kind of stuff. Like you,
I mean, you can make him. You can make him look how you want him to.
well, but he's not your Morgan, like Shepard.
No.
He's not your
No.
Shepard. He's not your Morgan.
Not really, because like he's his own person. Like as the story moves on, he like
Evan's doing a very terrible job of trying to explain what point he's trying to make, so I'll try and do it for him.
Okay, go ahead.
Which is, in the story beats of the game, Arthur speaks in a certain way and about situations that doesn't equate to him going off and doing crazy shit like lassoing people and dragging them for hundreds of meters for a laugh.
So, all right, so the meter doesn't really matter then. Like you can play Morgan however you want, but it doesn't actually affect the story.
you
It
get
doesn't
different
affect the
endings.
story, because the story choice at the end, I think, is a binary choice. Is it go for the money or help save John?
All right.
There's like technically like 4 slightly different endings, but
Yeah.
the
But
idea
what
I would say six, because in each ending there's like a midsection, and if you're only halfway bad or halfway good, you also have a different death. Like there's like 2 seconds of cutscenes that play out differently. It's a very minor thing, but I looked into that, and that's the only way where it's not about the extremes of the honor bar. And yeah, that's the issue with the game, because you're either full bad or full good. There's no in between. And I would have preferred that like all actions could have like deeper consequences. So that
because if you're on a
the
mission, and
meter is always
yeah.
like in the middle.
But if I decide to
wanna-
be an asshole the entire game, does
Yep.
the rest of the game respond to that?
Yeah, it does a fine job responding to that, but there are key moments in the story where you may go like,
doesn't make sense that Arthur would do that.
Yeah, because there are these central points in this story. Like I don't know how it plays out, like the conversations where Arthur is trying to convince people to leave Dutch. Maybe he's not saying that for to help them. Maybe he's saying that so that he can easily rob Dutch of whatever money he has. I don't know. Like, it
Well,
may
like-
be, but still, it's
So
Yeah,
just
so-
to give you a hint of the mechanic of the morality meter, other than it being a pain in the ass, if you go full kind of light side, if you walk into a store and you want to buy goods, you'll get a discount. If you go the other way, the prices actually go up
Okay.
because you've been robbing people, so they charge you more. So that then you rob them because
Or like
you don't want to pay that much.
Well,
if you get into a fight in the bar and then you go there later, like, hey, you better not cause trouble like you did last time. Like, when you talk about immersion, like that stuff's really, really cool.
it almost sounds like Mass Effect 2. So like Arthur Morgan sounds like this guy that should be like you should play him the straight-laced good guy, right?
To an extent, like he's
But
the type of guy that would get drunk and punch people, but he wouldn't like kill a civilian. You know?
Right, but you're in the Vanderlyn gang, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Mass Effect 2, you're Shepard. You're, part of you're in Cerberus in Mass Effect 2. And it doesn't make a whole lot of sense
Like it's super
To-
sketchy, right?
to
Like, what
be
you do.
Paragon in that instance, but you can if you want to be.
Right,
I've
but
never
like,
heard of this game. Is it any good?
That's all right. There's a balance between like Shepard is like he's got to get shit done, right? Now whether you're an asshole when you get shit done or you're nice about it and more persuasive, being nice, that's what you're either an asshole or you're not. In this game, it's like you could kill civilians, you can kill people in cold blood, or you can play closer to what Arthur Morgan is in the story beats, and
Right.
that kind of it's not balanced that way. So the idea that like I understand the idea of like having an open world where you can go out and do anything, but it actually doesn't make sense for Arthur Morgan's character. The further you get into the story, like he is not an irredeemable person. I guess that's slightly arguable, but like Dutch lost his humanity when he shot a civilian in the head, and that's one of the things that makes slowly but surely makes Arthur Morgan very suspicious of Dutch's motivations and of his psychosis. So if you can like walk into a bar and throw a Molotov cocktail at like a poker game, like your character is ultimately irredeemable. So like all the stuff he does in the story beats like is rendered like it doesn't make any sense. It's not that he's an asshole or not. It's like you can go out and do anything, and that's the juxtaposition between the story and the idea of having an open world where you can do everything. And I kind of have an issue with that because Arthur Morgan would not do those things. And I never played that way, but yeah, that was something that I did have an issue with. But what do you do then? Like, do you create like a character that has no backstory, or you know what I mean? And then like you're either crazy or you're not, or do you create someone with specific motives and all this stuff, and then it just is odd if you try to play the bad guy? Like, I don't know what you do there.
I'm just glad the game doesn't have any politics in it.
Not at all.
No political undertones whatsoever.
Well, no game does. No game does.
I feel like it's very sarcastic, McWomble.
One last note on the story that I would like to bring up is on a more positive note. I like how like there's like a full circle, especially if you play the first game. After you finish the epilogue of Red Dead 2, it blends so nicely with what was the first game. So I wouldn't know what to advise a person who played neither, if they should go back to the first one. I think the first one is much fun to play because it doesn't have all these mechanics. It's more straightforward.
Yeah, I agree.
It is very dated now.
I played it again, I think 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah, it's very close. It's very close to GTA 5 because GTA 5 was built on that.
And talking about the epilogue, I didn't like most of it.
Because it was boring.
Yeah. So it seemed unnecessarily elongated.
It's a bit too long.
So in my playthrough, I helped John escape. John reunites with Abigail and the son, and they basically change their identities, and he becomes a farmhand. And so you've got to mend fences and clean up cow shit and milk cows, and for God's sake.
Those are all mini games.
Yeah, so these are all lift stick, to press left, attach. It was just so dull. But there are some really good moments within that. And then one thing I did really appreciate is closing off some of the other story arcs. So what happens to Sadie Adler?
Oh, she's one of the best characters in that game.
Oh, and this is going back to story and characters.
She is absolutely awesome.
These are some of the best rounded NPCs in any video game ever, in any piece of media ever. So all of these people have got their own backstory, their own nuances, their own quirks. One of the characters, Karen, when everything starts going to shit, she hits the bottle hard, and you just see her getting more and more progressively drunk all the time. And it is other people start getting really melancholic, and there's one guy just sitting and talking about his old stories when he was in the Navy, and then suddenly just bursts into tears after singing a song.
Those are the little pieces of immersion that mean way more than all of the extra stuff, the simulation stuff that you have to do. Like, so I wish that Rockstar would have. I mean, fucking geniuses there. I will get that. There's something, they had a vision and they were going to do it no matter what anyone said. But I just wish they would have realized, like, that's those little things you're talking about, and Michael as well, you've discussed a lot of this stuff as well. I wish they would have focused on that more and just realized, like, all the simulation stuff they could have trimmed a bit just to make it more, to be more considerate to the player.
Oh, do you mean Red Dead Redemption Ranch Simulator 2018?
Oh yeah, and
Which
you know,
was the
funnily
epilogue?
enough, I liked the epilogue. Was a bunch of that stuff was like, oh, are you kidding me? But Michael, like you
Hammer
said,
the nails.
It went like it suddenly went up. Let's not forget about the house building, and I'm not going to say anything about it. We spoiled enough of the story for Matt, but if he's going to,
He's never going to
that
play
part
this.
is worth it. Like when
There-
you get to that part very late after 80 hours of game time, when you get to that, like, okay, now the game was worth it because it was the funniest, and like it was fueled with so much positive energy, and I don't know what they wanted to do with that thing, but they nailed it.
Yeah. Uncle comes back. Like, I like how in the beginning of the game they make John Marston to be like a big bumbling young idiot, and like make him kind of unlikable immediately after like everyone not even envisioning playing as anyone else as a main character, and then slowly through the story weave his story in with Arthur's, and then he becomes a likable character again. And then when you get to the epilogue and you play him again, it's like, okay, like I'm back in the saddle, almost like a prequel to
One
Dead
thing that I
One,
did
right?
really
I
like
like
about the dynamic of the epilogue is the relationship between John and Abigail.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because she wants him out of the life. So you're a rancher now. I've come back to you. You've built this ranch. We've got everything we could possibly want. We've got everything that we've ever talked about. So why can't you let it go? And that was really interesting, that bit that they explored there in the epilogue.
It is go ahead, Michael.
The whole process of John trying to cleanse himself and keep being dragged back in all these events in the epilogue that require him killing, and it's just so nice how he tries to make a decent living for himself, and he tries to apply for a loan.
He tries.
Yeah.
He tries very hard.
And he's being discriminated against because you've now got people in suits talking to him, you know, and they see him for who he is. All that, like the first section of the epilogue is very slow, but then it goes up, and even after finishing the epilogue, you have I think it's I don't know if it's another major time skip, but you can actually visit all these characters you know about in the world. Like one of them has a shop, works as a clerk. The other one you can still find, like they still roam the open world, and it makes sense for what they've been throughout the game. It's a very nice closure for them. It's a very well written closure for them. It's fulfilling, and
I wanted them to actually close it down. So I was waiting for the end of Red Dead Redemption 2 to be the beginning of Red Dead Redemption. So I was waiting for Ross to show up and kidnap. So you go out on a mission, you come back, and there's Ross sat at your dining table, and saying, "I've got Abigail and Jack,
Right.
and you're going to go and kill Dutch Vandalin for me."
They almost do that because they show Ross at the end kind of observing the ranch. So they almost get there.
I would have loved to have them actually go full blown and do it. So you get back, and there's just Ross sat at the table. That would have closed it off perfectly for me.
Actually, by the way, the end of Red Dead 1 is one of the best endings to a game that I've ever seen, where you have a final duel with Ross on the Rio Grande, and
as John's son.
Doesn't
and
Marston die?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eventually, even though he fulfills his obligations to the Pinkertons, they betray him anyways and shoot him. And then you play as his son, all grown up, and he finds the Pinkerton that betrayed him, just retired and fishing on the Rio Grande in Mexico. You walk up to him, and you're like, you know who I am? He's like, yeah, son. And you just have a final duel, just fucking unload a full revolver on him. He falls into it and he starts floating away, and you turn around and start walking away, and it's like, end. I was like, holy shit, that is one of the best endings I've ever experienced in a game. But how much time do we have left here?
Not long if you want to.
You got about 15 minutes.
I was thinking about probably doing. Does anyone have like a best side quest that they did? Because this game is
going to get into that. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Like, let's end it on a positive note, because all the technical stuff, yes, I have major issues with, but the reason
I've got two, and
okay,
they're absolutely brilliant. I'd say the first one is,
yeah, go ahead.
You know, there's the woman who's living by herself in a cabin up near the waterfall.
Yep, that is one of mine. She's in the northeast. You find her.
So her
Charlotte the Widow is what the name of the quest is called. Yes.
They're absolutely brilliant. So she and her husband move there. Her husband gets sick and dies, and you run into her being chased by wolves, and then you teach her how to hunt. You help her buy supplies, and you basically make her self-sufficient.
Yeah.
And you can keep going back, and you just see this little homestead that she's built get built up. It's just very cool.
Yeah, you keep like helping her little by little over the course of like maybe a couple hours. Yeah. And I think this particular side quest shows the type of guy that Arthur really is, I think.
Yeah, he's not a Molotov cocktail mass murder throwing. What am I
believe that if you're full bad, some side quests don't appear, so you're going to miss those. I think like based on how the game is made with all the events. I think certain events are not made available to you if you're full bad. I think if you're full bad, some special side quests start appearing.
Right. Michael,
so we're all good people. That's good to know.
I would be a total asshole. I was just murdering people and everything if I played this game.
What Arthur Morgan wouldn't do that, Matt.
He might. My Arthur Morgan might do that if I had that opportunity. If I had that choice.
Right, Michael. Do you go next? Then we'll go round again.
That was the only side quest I had in mind. That's the side quest that stuck with me the most.
It's a really good one.
Many others, but that was the main one I wanted to feature. But instead of that, I'll just say as a note that this is the type of game where if you want to check back on a character, you'll find it there, and you will not be disappointed when you do so. Like if you want to, like, okay, these events happened that might have affected these characters. What if I go down there and check up on them? And they do. I spent a lot of time just traveling the world, but we'll talk about the fast travel. Like if we still have time, there are a few mechanics we want to discuss.
Okay, Keith, what is the second one that you had in mind? Because I have a ton here that I could talk about.
The second one was the old guy who you find in the saloon, and he says, I've lost my watch and my house has been foreclosed on me. Could you break into my house and steal my watch back for me?
I do not have that one on here. If
okay.
you might as well tell it now.
So you find this old guy drunk in a saloon, and you just start talking. He said, "Can you help me out? The bank foreclosed on my house, and my family heirloom in there is my watch. Could you go and get my watch back for me?" So you go and you find that there's squatters in there. So you kill the squatters, get the watch, and you go back to the guy, and he said, and you kind of continue the story, and he was saying about how the industry has let me down, and the people I was working for fired me, and I was left destitute. And you're starting to feel sorry for this guy. And he said, "Oh, would you go back and get my diaries for me? They mean a lot to me." And so you go back and you get this guy's diaries, and you start reading the diaries and find out he worked for a slaving family. And he used to go and hunt down escaped slaves. And he's lamenting the fact that the Emancipation Proclamation lost him his job because he couldn't hunt slaves anymore.
And you go to his
And
basement and you find like chains and stuff, like he was
chains,
locking slaves
and
up there.
Yeah, and it had a list of all the people, all the slaves who he'd either captured or killed and returned, and what had happened to them. And some of them had been tortured, some of them had been gelded. It's really horrible stuff, and this guy is feeling sorry for himself. So you, as Arthur, after finding this out, go back and kind of take his diaries, and he's sat by a little campfire. You chuck his diary in the fire, and you chastise the guy for a couple of minutes, saying, "So I can't understand how you could have done that job." And this guy's kind of weeping, crying for the time when he could have slavery back because his life was so much better then. And it was just really powerful, because you start off feeling sorry for this guy, and you find out that he's done all this horrible shit. And this is where everyone's saying the juxtaposition. I don't know if it's one of the ones that Michael was talking about, whether this would actually show up, because Arthur is horrible to this guy when he finds out one, rightly so. It's like, you've done some, how could you do this to all these people? Do you realize how many lives you've ruined? It's like, what about my life? My life's ruined. And he's got this old knackered revolver that he tries to point at you, and he tries to get you to kill him because he doesn't want to live anymore. And Arthur just leaves him there in a pit of self-pity. It's absolutely brilliant. It's like, you deserve that, you utter bastard.
Yeah, you turn your back on him and start walking away, and he starts crying, and he's trying to get his diary out of the fire, and it's just like super powerful.
That's amazing storytelling. I would play the game just for that scene.
Dude, like, Matt, I know you love your side quests. There are so many like I have a list of probably 11 here.
The murderer who's leaving body bits everywhere.
Oh god, that shit's rough. Okay, so so I'll do 2 as well very quickly. Actually, the one that you talked about just now is called The Inequities of History, Keith. That was the name of the side quest with the old guy in the slave trade. This one is called The Veteran. So you come across this Civil War vet. He's leaning against a rock, and he has only one leg. And he just said his horse has run off with his prosthetic leg in tow. He's like, "Hey,
oh yeah, brilliant.
My horse's name is Buell. Fucking horse just ran off, man. Can you find it?" So it's very close. You get his horse, lead it back to him, and reattach his prosthetic leg, put him on his horse, and send him on his way. And then, like most of these, over the course of several side quests, you start befriending this veteran. He lives in a small wooden hut next to a lake. You go out fishing with him, and you just you sit down in his
cabin
and start talking with him, and you befriend this guy. And then, man, I don't know if I want to ruin this, but he meets. The friendship seems real, and like it just seems like a person that Arthur would respect, and you just develop this friendship over the course of these side quests, and then he meets his demise in kind of a fucked up way, but they kind of come to terms with their friendship, and you end up getting the horse that first ran off with his prosthetic leg, Buell. You end up getting that horse, and that horse is fucking badass in that game. Like, I kept that horse to the end of the game. But
I finished this chain of side quests as John Marston, and
I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, that you can come in the middle of a chain of sub quests, and you can continue them as John Marston, and they were always talking about Arthur, like how he was a great guy, like based on your main playthrough, like if you get him good or bad.
Right.
Now I don't know if there are any differences if you're full bad or full good as John Marston, but of course they invested a lot of time in that. I remembered two other subquests, but I'll make them really quick. One of them is with those two brothers that keep hitting each other and keep racing each other. Like they want to be the best, that they want to prove to each other that they are the best. Yeah, that's one of them. That's really funny.
That's a funny one, yeah.
Yeah. It's the only side quest that does not make a note of you not being Arthur, because they never address you. Yeah, so that was the only mishap in this. And
right.
The other one I just remember, which was really cool, is that guy, that inventor who found electricity, but not only that, he had his little mechanical boat that was controlled by
like levers and something, right?
Yeah. It was like wireless electricity, remote something, and people were like, "No, this is sorcery. I don't trust this. This is a scam. It cannot be." And you actually get to control this little boat on a small lake, and you need to destroy targets because it's equipped with some
torpedoes.
It has a gun on top. I think it has explosive rounds, or just like you need to break targets. So yeah, that was interesting. But of course,
you're like trying to convince prospective investors that like this technology is real.
Yeah.
And then you find him in like up in the Northeast in his lab, and he builds a robot.
Yeah.
And like Frankenstein.
Is that the same guy?
Yeah.
That's the same guy. When you go back there later, the robot has escaped and he's fucking dead.
Oh. And that's another. Don't you find a robot somewhere else on the map?
If you go all the way to the northwest on like one of the top of the biggest snowy mountains, the robot has just escaped and went wild and climbed up there. And there's no end of the side quest, and there's no cutscene. It's just up there completely frozen on the top of a mountain. It's like
this is another thing. Yeah, that's something I've seen even in GTA 5 and even in Red Dead 1. Like it has this it becomes creepy at one point because you have all these mysteries that don't have any closure. They are just left like that for you to wonder,
which I appreciate. Yeah.
Did you guys find the suicide cult?
No, I didn't even find the KKK. I played the game for 108 hours. I never even ran up to them.
Each time blow them up with dynamite, and you actually it makes a comment on that. I just threw a dynamite at them, and just a quick note, because I remember I stopped and pocketed the one in the black hood. I took his note that he had in his pocket and read it. Very interesting stuff. I don't stop to read things in games like.
Oh yeah, my man. Yes, I love it.
I don't do that, but the only games I've done that with were Horizon Zero Dawn and Red Dead 2, because those things are really worth your time. Like in Red Dead 2, you can go into this abandoned cabin and say like, oh, it's just an abandoned cabin. The moment you read the note you find in there, you start noticing that all the objects placed in that cabin and around it, whatever, they make sense. They make so much sense, and they add so much value. Like for instance, the KKK guy, I took the note from. He was just someone in his early 20s that left his family because something like his family did not agree with him that people of color were evil, and they were religious and very like they just didn't share his beliefs, and he left his home, he left his family, he left his mother and father just to go away with this clan. And
all that stuff is super meaningful. And what is one interesting thing about that is like there's a specific button that the main character can look down and read their notebook. Depending on like the things that you come in contact with or like story beats, Arthur will write stuff, and you kind of realize like he's actually a bit of a poet and an artist. Like his writing is actually he's like well spoken. His art is like really amazing. And then the funny thing is like when you change to John Marston in the epilogue, like he is not well spoken at all. Like the sketches and stuff and like the writing in his diary is like quite poor. And I just love that little detail that if you don't have to look at the diary at all in the game, but it's a very small detail. Like you kind of realize like Arthur he's a very like smart and well spoken man, and it shows through his sketches of just like random houses and people and the way he writes his diary. And that's
the other side quest that I was going to remember is the Arthur's ex-wife.
Yeah, that's a long one, but it's really good. It really showed like, you know, there was a chance for him to move on and be happy, and it just didn't happen because he's part of this gang.
Speaking of the journal, that's why John, that's the reason for why John can find these characters that Arthur met and continue the side quests.
Oh, because he reads Arthur's journal.
He supposedly has read through it, and that's why you still have all his money, all his guns, all these interest points on the map and everything. Because
makes sense.
After Arthur died, you pick up his stuff, everything. I actually abused the glitch during my playtime and got $1,000.
Oh,
and
okay.
they remain. And I was like, Dutch, I have the money to go. We can go right now. We can go to Tahiti right now. I have $50,000. No, we have to do one more heist for the sake of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll briefly mention one. Okay, two very quickly. I'm sure you guys both played this. One is called you'll like this one. Oh, fuck, where is it? I got it here. Oh, I can feel it. Here it is. He's British, of course. So you run into just randomly an eccentric circus caravan runner. Where all his wild animals, like his very exotic animals, have escaped. They're like Barnum and Bailey cages in this caravan. And he's like, you got to find the tiger. Or whatever. I'm mixing this up a bit, and you're like, oh shit, a tiger's on the loose. So he's like, please, you got to get my animals for me. This is my lifeblood. Like we need the money for this. And you go, and each animal that you catch is like not an exotic animal at all. He's like totally playing everyone. It's like a mountain lion that's got like black stripes painted on it. It's been spray painted orange. Like he's totally fooling everyone. And each time like you lasso one back, he's like, all right, you got to get a zebra. My zebra escaped, and you go get a zebra, and it's just a fucking horse that's been painted. It's it's fucking sweet. And then one more just takes place outside the town of Rhodes, which is called sorry, what is it called? The Ties That Bind Us. You find two guys who are totally in like they're like a chain. They escaped from a chain gang, and they're literally connected by the ankle. One guy's called Mr. White, the other's Mr. Black. Of course, Mr. Black is white, and Mr. White is a black guy. And they're like, hey, look, we didn't do whatever they said. Can you go into Rhodes and take down our wanted posters? Don't believe a word that you hear. We're going to hide out in this forest. And they're always fighting with each other. Like, just like, well, it's actually quite hilarious. So you're like, all right. And you're just tasked with taking down like 5 or 6 posters in Rhodes. But what happens is each time you find a poster, as you take it down, you hear people in the area start talking about the recently escaped people. And each time you take down a poster, you're kind of left with like it. One person gossips about how like they didn't do it. They talk about like one person talks about like the horrid shit that they did. And there's one neat thing where like one of the posters is a guy like leaning against the pole, the poster behind him. You're like, excuse me, sir, need to get behind you. And he's like, why don't you find your own pole? And you're like, all right, I'm gonna get into a fist fight. So you just like knock this fucker out and like rip it down. And then so it's so cool because after like 5 conversations, because it's like they just escaped, you start hearing at each time you take down a wanted poster, you're hearing the people around you talk about these 2 people that escaped. And you're kind of left up to yourself to decide whether or not you think they're guilty of what they did. But once you finish it, then you can shoot the chain that's connecting them, and then they run away, and you're like, you don't even know if you did the right thing or not. But it like that type of thing where like it doesn't tie everything up in a bow in a box. And you're like, did I do the right thing there? And it doesn't punish you for that type of stuff. And there's some interesting like fights to try to get the wanted posters off. Like it's short. It has nothing to do with the story. It totally is a side quest in name, but it's like it's something that fills the world out, and you're like, man, that was fun. That was really good.
I love that kind of stuff,
dude. It's super fun.
Something I like about these side quests is that unlike a Ubisoft game where they fill the map with icons, they are very discrete places. So at times you find these white circles that have a question mark in the center of them, so you don't really know what things are there. Some are exclusive to chapters, so you need to be mindful of that. Like if you want to do all the side quests available, you need to do them relatively not as fast as you can, but as soon as they become available. and other encounters are not even marked on the map. So you like it's just in passing. Like if you're lucky enough to pass by that location, you can trigger it. Another thing that helps with figuring out where you've been is you can see so the squares, the little squares on the map are cabins, are places where you can enter, or different places. When you go there, and if the place is meaningful, and most of the times it is, Arthur will write on the map, so that place will get a name, you know. And that's really interesting. It's by the end of the game, you're going to look at your map and have all these things written on, and he also draws the animals that, like, when you find a certain area that has these certain animals, he will draw them there, so you can easily keep track of all these things. There are legendary animals. If you hunt them, he crosses them out. It's a nice way to keep track of where you've been, exploration in general.
What is the fast travel like in this game?
The fast travel is
awful.
Yeah, it is, but it's not. It shouldn't be surprising based on previous Rockstar titles, because they never do proper fast travel because they want you to explore.
Right.
For its sake, it's not a good thing that the map is this big, but what they do, it's only in chapter 3 when you can unlock upgrades for your camps, and you can buy this
The world
fast
map
travel thing, and from your camp you can fast travel towards other points on the map, but not from those places back to the camp. What you can do instead, main villages and locations may have like coach stations, so you can pay money to go back to other locations, or you can get the train. What
Okay.
will happen though, you'll prefer to actually ride all the way back, because we lost Evan.
Yeah.
You may want to ride all the way back. Oh, he's back.
Maybe.
Because it's too expensive. Like, money is really short in the beginning of the game, so you will not want to spend $10
There
on
he is.
your way back. Yep.
That's the one thing that I've heard. Like $100 is like $100 in this game.
Yeah,
Like, it's
like
it's
if
a
you
big
have
deal.
$100, you're rich.
Yeah, you will reach a point where money isn't an issue at all.
Yeah, which is slightly disappointing, because when you get money, it really feels like you earned it, but that tends to happen with a lot of games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's not much you can do with money. Like, of course, you're going to afford clothes and buy all these interesting outfits, but from there you can't do anything. I would have loved to have like some property management,
Yeah,
something that would have been great, something to keep investing in.
Right.
I just tackled the map, and I want to specify one little detail, because I want Berkough to know about it. And keep in mind, if you do illegal stuff and you get a bounty on your head, you might mess up so badly, because you don't know. Like, okay, so sheriffs start following you. You feel it's only natural to shoot back at them to escape.
Right.
That's only going to make matters worse. If you get into a fight in a village, you are better off trying to get away and not kill everyone, because your bounty is going to increase. And if you're causing like a huge ruckus, that village will be on the lockout. You will not be able to enter it. You can physically enter it, but everyone there will remember you, and you'll get wanted immediately. You have different stages of wanted. So you have a bounty, or then you can have like something dead or alive. I don't know if it resets once you're killed by the authorities. That would be a good thing. The problem is the bounty stays there. So
Yeah.
you can
until you pay it off.
you can by mistake get a bounty on your head of $500, let's say, right? in the beginning of the game, you don't have this kind of money. I don't know.
It's hard. Yeah, you have to.
So it's
If
not.
you fuck up, you have to stay away from certain towns because you cannot pay off the bounty.
It's not like
the
GTA. It's not like GTA where you just like
No.
wait it out and the one of
You
those
can.
drops like.
You can, but if you can, but the bounty remains. So let's say if you have a $5 bounty, that's a mild bounty, and it shows you which area of the map where you're actually wanted, because the map is so big, it's parted into like 4 regions, I think.
Yeah, they're like highlighted in red, and if you're in that
Yeah.
area, eventually bounty hunters will come looking for you, and depending on the price on your head, more bounty hunters will come looking for you. And it gets to the point where, especially early in the game, like if you have a decent bounty on your head, you will not be able to beat those bounty hunters. Like they will shoot you dead unless you get lucky or you run away, and they'll keep coming. Like they'll regenerate after a while. Like if you manage to kill the 5 bounty hunters looking for you,
They come back.
So as soon as
they'll
you
come
get
back
the bounty,
eventually.
you'll
Yeah.
pay it out.
But you can pay it off, right?
Pay
Like
your-
you can
go
Yep.
pay
you
it
can
off.
go somewhere
pay
to
it
pay your bounty off.
You have to go to a specific location, specific locations to pay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Like the post office.
Yep.
Usually train stations.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you if you really want to do certain things, I don't know how much it helps. It helps to a certain degree, but I never used it properly. You can wear a bandana so that when you kill
I found that
someone,
never worked.
During story beats, it doesn't work because the game will tell you if you'll be wanted no matter what you do. But in like, yeah, I don't know. It was a bit inconsistent, I think.
supposedly it should work like this: you wear a bandana, you go kill someone, you run from that place. Once it's safe, you can take it off. Shop clerks will refuse to serve you if you wear a bandana.
Which makes sense.
Which
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah, like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I don't know what you're doing with that thing on your face, but take it off. And
Yeah.
you can find these masks throughout the map, like a Viking
ones.
mask, like some
Sackcloth.
pirates,
Serial killer masks. Yeah.
unique weapons you can find. You can wield dual arms at one point as you improve your things. Like there's a ton of cool stuff like that.
Okay.
But yeah, if you got blood on your clothes from, let's say, carry a deer that you just hunted, and then you sell the deer, and you don't wash yourself because you still got blood on yourself. If you walk through a village or through a town, people will react to that because they don't know that the blood is from an animal.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so you need to.
I wish you could just tell them that the blood is from a deer. Like I just went
Yeah.
hunting, but
Yeah.
Because I wanted to bring up when you said about interaction with other characters, it's always in a mean way. I liked what they did in Watch Dogs 2 because you could interact positively with people. You could dance to them, you could sing to them, you could do all these things. But
there's a
here
bit
it's
of that
just-
in this. Like if someone's like, "Howdy, Mister," you can say like, "Fuck
Yeah,
off."
but
Kinda-
it doesn't go further from that. You can only diffuse situations. Like if someone
That's right.
gets
Yeah.
aggro on you, you can. Yeah, you can. But
Yeah, there are so many systems in this game, and a lot of it I understand the idea is like full immersion, but like and story stuff, like I said, Arthur Morgan, like top 2 best characters of all time. The story itself is what got me through this game, especially when you contract tuberculosis. I was like, wow, like he's kind of faced with his mortality, and it's like, what legacy do I leave behind? Do I try to leave this world in a better place and tie up my loose ends than how I left it or what I did in the past? When you start getting into like that last third of the game, it's like super meaningful, and it carries you through some of the annoying parts where you're trying to do something and you fumble with the controls and you get wanted and you try to run away and stuff. But yeah, like it's a game at odds with itself, at least for me. But yeah, I came around eventually on it very positively when the game ended, but there was a dip in the middle of that game where I just didn't know how I was going to
It-
finish it
it's when
because of some of these technical bound obstacles that I came in.
it's when they finally let you go. Like after chapter 3, they kind of tell you that you can go do your thing,
Yeah.
but you have so many options that you feel overwhelmed. Yeah, but as you said, like it's worth going through even only through the story. I think like it's very tedious. It's very tedious. I do not disagree with anything that's been said against the game so far, but I still think it's one of the games that define this generation. Uh, I think it's
I feel like it was trying to be too much.
yeah.
Oh, there's a lot of like kind of half-assed ideas in here, and yeah, that
The
they
only
could have
times
out.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm done.
the only time I felt frustration with the game, and even a couple of days ago when I tried to get back into online to see if anything changed, because I was thinking maybe we talk about that, but I don't think we have the time. Um, the only times of frustration I have with this game is when when I die, of course, because it's always from stupid reasons. And in my case, I never died from falling off a horse.
Hmm.
I kind of got a hang of how horses control and whatever, but you occasionally you're being jumped by bandits or
The Murphys or someone.
or wolves start attacking you. It's those moments that you cannot properly turn back on your horse.
Yeah, you fumble with the
everyone,
controls a bit.
a thing we didn't tackle for Matthew to know that it's very important you keep cleaning your weapons because
Yeah, another tedious.
yeah. So yeah, as I said, the most frustrating parts for me with the game was when I was cornered and I did not have enough time, because the game doesn't let you take your time to defend yourself. And that's a problem in all the Rockstar games. Like if you're surrounded by people shooting at you, you die. I'm playing through GTA 3 on my mobile phone. I don't know how people back in the day were getting good at that game. I don't think there's such a thing as getting good at GTA 3. You get lucky, because when 7 NPCs shoot at you with shotguns, you die. Like you don't even get to see that health meter going down. It's just 0 all of a sudden. So yeah, unless you have a cover, combat is not fun in Red Dead.
That is a great point, and I never really thought about that, but I 100% agree. If you're not behind cover, you die really, really quickly, and there's no difficulty setting in this game. But yeah, when you're behind cover and you can kind of auto aim and like use Deadeye and pick people up, it's
and of
super
course,
fun. Yeah,
you can change cover, you can run around, but when you're on a horse, I feel that you're the most vulnerable. Or what you can do is just try to distance yourself from the gang attacking you, and then enter Deadeye zone, and try to aim everyone, headshot everyone.
Yeah.
I cannot say the same about the wolves. The wolves scare the horse. The horse throws you on the ground. The wolves get a bite because you don't have enough time to get up. Eventually you kill all the wolves only by pressing R2, because in that situation it automatically locks on their head. So it's like it's almost as if they addressed this issue. Like, okay, the player right now might start button mashing. Let's make it easy. when the player button mashes, you kill everyone immediately.
Right.
But, Matt, what we're getting at is it's an excellent game held back only by itself.
So the sim elements are the things that hold me back from getting into this game. If I can, if I can ignore those for the most part, like I'm totally down for the stories and the side quests. You kind of
can ignore that stuff. I guess it just for the most part, I think you can.
If I can do that right now, I just looked it up. It's $45 here in town.
I pick it up.
Leave it till next year and get it.
Actually,
get it in a Christmas sale or something like that.
Okay.
$30, $30
Yeah.
maybe.
18 pounds here in UK. I found it somewhere. Of course, secondhand, but you can get it secondhand for $20 or $25. I would argue that would be the best investment you could make yourself, given that you're on the fence. I do have a few notes for you specifically if you want to get into this game. Clear, like whatever you want to play, finish those games first. Like try not to get distracted by other games.
Evan's just laughing in the corner.
At least until you reach chapter 3, try to stick with it. Because if in the very beginning, if you leave it, there's no chance you can actually get used again with the control scheme. So
the controls are an issue. You should only play this game for.
I'm used to them because they've been like I played GTA 5 so much, it's second nature.
Yeah.
Although what this game adds is a new layer to that wheel thing, so it's another layering of complexity to the way it controls. But my advice for you, if you get into this game, stay with it. Like even if you hate it in the beginning, stay, because if you don't, you might never know if you really get to appreciate, to like it or not. I could never play this game when I did so in small bursts. Like when I played it, I bought it when it released. I bought it right away. I had no other game in mind. I was like, I'm all in this game. And at least in the beginning, if you don't play in chunks of 3 hours, you don't really get to achieve anything significant.
Okay. All right.
It may sound like a bad thing. It may be a bad thing, but that's how they want you to play it, because you spend so much time traveling on horse because there's no proper fast travel, but in the same time you also get to experience all these unique moments, all these unique encounters, because they want you to explore the game. And what I found out, it's the only for me because I'm a Rockstar fan. I'm a bit biased to it, but it's the only game where the only open world game actually, because there are other games where I do that. It's the only game where I get into it and only to experience it. I don't want to accomplish anything. I just want to invest an hour to just roam around, because there's always stuff to find.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a mood. So I would advise to get into it with an open mind. Like throw whatever you want. Like whatever you do to me, that's the best way to approach this game. Because I had a friend who also wanted to play this. I lent my game to him, and he liked it. Unfortunately, he didn't have the time to continue past chapter 3.
Okay.
I mean, like, if you want to cut out some of the side quest stuff, you can, and you can kind of beeline the story. But I will say it starts out slow. Like, Rockstar likes to take, for better or for worse, Rockstar likes to take their time with introducing mechanics and all these types of things. A lot of it is good because there's a lot of setup with characters and stuff that pays off way later, like makes like set pieces and scenes way more meaningful. But if I would say, Berkough, one of the main things is like, if any of those side quests sounded interesting to you, like that is where a lot of the meat and potatoes of this game lies, because there are so many memorable scenes in this game that like, that's what, despite all like the complaints that I have, and I have a lot with this game, especially technically, and how Rockstar was so close to it that they couldn't trim the fat, but the story is what kept me going ultimately.
Well, all right. So like GTA 5, I've never completed all of the story in GTA 5. I've gotten like 85%.
Right.
But there's like there's the quest that you do where you're Michael and you go to the park and you take the drugs and you have to like kill all the aliens.
You keep meeting that marijuana smoker dude. Yeah.
Right. Like, all right. So like that's intriguing enough to me. If Red Dead is on that same level of like Grand Theft Auto, where there's enough shit going on. What really pulled me away from it was the reviews talking about like, well, you have to go to the camp, and like you were saying, you have to clean your horse, and you have to do this, and you have to do that. And I was like, that's way too
You don't have to
simmy.
clean your horse.
It's
You
way
don't
it's
have
way
to.
too simulation for me. Like I would much rather just tackle it as a GTA game,
Sure.
you know.
There's
You don't
there's no
of
management.
the sim stuff. There are elements that you have to do, which is you need to clean your weapons, and
Yeah.
you need to clean your horse. You need
Okay.
to feed yourself, and you need to sleep. That's it.
That's a good way to put it.
That is
Okay.
it. Everything else in terms of sim, you can ignore.
Okay. That was the major like off-putting factor for me. It was like
And that bothers some reviewers more than others. You know what I mean? So there is
It-
it depends on the level, right?
it
Can I
bothered
just point out
bothered
that
up
the shadow on Evan when he has his face like that, it looks like he's got his face is morphed and he looks like he's got some skull head appearing on one side of his face.
Yeah, I see it.
Looks like you've been possessed by the
I can't
Ghost Rider.
man. unless I looked at I can't.
No,
There's
it's fine. It's just
one
that.
light.
Alright.
So, kind of, we're getting into kind of wrapping up in final thoughts.
yeah.
The problem that I had with it is exactly what Michael was talking about. It's not a game that you can spend an hour on and feel like you've achieved much.
You have
You
to
need to
dig
invest
3 or
time
4 hours.
in this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And part of it is because of how the story develops and the day and night cycle in it. And part of it is the survival sim elements that they've included. So if you can choose not to sleep, but if you choose not to sleep at any point, your health and dead-eye meters and stamina meter starts to degrade.
Okay.
So you need to choose to sleep. You need to choose to eat, and those things can kind of get in the way of you feeling like you're achieving stuff. So if you've got I want to start a mission, but I can't start a mission because I need to go to a saloon and I need to have a bath because I'm dirty, which means my health meter's going down more quickly.
What helped a lot with me, because there's also the fact that if your horse dies, you lose it. If your horse dies, you lose it, and then you have to go back to the stables and get another one. I bought the Ultimate Edition, and the best horse available came free.
It's Clive.
Only because that's what you, Keith, have named it.
I named every horse Roach.
Yeah, same. My horse is Roach.
Yes.
Yeah, I did the same.
We just became. I think we just became best friends, Michael.
My horse is going to be named Ed.
There you go. That's good too.
Mr. Ed.
Yeah. So you need to be mindful of that. There are certain things that unfortunately can put someone off and get away, but there are so many. I feel sad when I think about how much people would have enjoyed certain aspects of the game, but they just didn't because mechanics like this kept coming in the way, and it's a shame. It's a shame because this game has to be experienced by most people that love games.
There's a lot. Yeah, there's enough there for most people that love games that
I mean,
they would absolutely love.
Is this a good game to? Because you may enjoy it this way as well, just watching playthroughs of it, finding like this YouTuber that you like and like just watch through his playthroughs.
I wouldn't think so based on what you guys have told me. Like I wouldn't want to watch somebody else play it because there's so much choice that you have.
Yeah, I think Berkough, for you, like you'd want to be your own Arthur Morgan and not someone else's, even though he kind of is his own person. But yeah, I mean, yeah, for some people that's probably an option, but I think for you, like, it's probably not. So I don't know. In general, like for a price, like,
well, yeah,
this game is this game would be worth to buy for you. Maybe whether that be $30 or $20. Maybe I'm not sure. But
I'm ready to spend 45 right now, but I mean
there's enough there. That's for sure.
The limiting factor for me is this is a weekend game. Like I don't have enough time during the week to like get off work, come home.
No, you don't. And that's the thing for me. It took me so long to finish this game.
The only reason my friend got into this game was because he had like these 3 weeks free from his job. But other than that, just in your case, it's only the weekend, and that's why he stepped off of it.
I finished it in about a month and a half. It's not a big deal.
All right, Mr. Teacher, free for the summer.
I finished it as soon as I could because I didn't want spoilers.
Yeah. Yeah, right. There's also that motivation there. Hey, I gotta go back to work on the 26th. Fucking sweating over here, man.
Kids have already gone back to school over here, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Anyways,
at least, well, you don't have to do anything related to teaching in Red Dead Redemption 2. Maybe in the third one. Maybe in the third one.
It's going to be a mini game.
You play as a teacher in a small town, and a gang of bandits come in, and they don't realize that you are actually badass mercenary.
I love it.
You got to go after the bastards.
Yeah, that's one reason I don't like playing the Persona games per se, because it takes place in a Japanese school, and it's like I just feel like I'm going to work. Sucks. Yeah.
Is there much call for dungeon crawling on the 9th floor of the building that you work in? Go down to the basement, you drive around in a cat that's actually a van.
It would make school definitely a lot more interesting, I'll tell you that much. Anyways.
So personal scores and any final thoughts to try and get Matt to play the game. Oh, one final thought. Don't play online. It's fucking awful.
GTA Online was awful, and now I'm enjoying every bit of it. Only the only the management part of it, because I don't play with any other players. What I do, I go online, I open the task manager, I go into resources, I suspend the game for 7 seconds, then resume it, go back in, all the players in my lobby gone. Because whenever I try to move cargo in that game, someone will come after me and blow my cargo away. So I'm racking in millions just by using a hack. That's the only way I enjoy GTA Online.
So that seems like you have to go through all that just to enjoy it. It seems like
I played a bit of because I like Michael. I got the Ultimate Edition of Red Dead Redemption 2, so you got loads of free shit for Red Dead Online.
Oh, okay.
Oh my god, it was one of the most awful gaming experiences I've ever had. It was 100% grief mode all the time. Literally, anyone you came across, they would just kill you, lasso you, because you don't start off with a horse. So if you come across someone and they've got a horse, you're fucked.
Yeah. No, fuck that.
And it's like, no, screw that. I don't care if you're going to give me, 50 gold bars or 15 gold bars, which is part of your premium currency, which is probably worth about a stick of gum and a bottle cap. If it's in real life,
if it's an online game, I need to be.
They're giving out a ton of money to get people back in. But I think, and this doesn't sound good, I think in a year from now it will be what it's meant to be, because GTA Online in the beginning only had races and a few contact missions, and it wasn't much. It was very bare bones. But I see the same thing with Red Dead. Red Dead 1's multiplayer actually improved a lot on the multiplayer in GTA 4, as I played that too, and it was a step up. So I have hopes that they are actually aiming to bring, although I don't really see it happening, they might do even more interesting things with the online in Red Dead.
Do you know what they're going to do? They're going to do the Riverboat Casino.
Yeah.
That is a great mission, by the way, in the single player. That is one of the more memorable missions when you're on the.
But that Riverboat Casino is coming to GTA, Red Dead Redemption 2 online.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, we're over 2 hours. Do you guys want to call it?
Well, okay. Scores.
scores.
Michael, what would your score for?
My score is it's not meant to be enjoyed in small bursts. If you know you have like a month off or 3 weeks, I don't know. If you know you have this chunk of free time on your side, and you really want to play it, you should take advantage of that. But otherwise, just playing it during the weekends, I would advise against it, because you're not going to get the real experience out of it. You will not have a well justified impression of the game. You need to spend time with it. If you want to play it in small bursts, you can hunt, because you need to acquire food. That's important. You need to cook, or go play poker. It has all these card games, mini games you could just enjoy for yourself. So yeah, that's the only way I can see someone putting only an hour a day on it, but not to make any significant progress with the story itself. Otherwise, it's very polished. It's very it's a technical achievement. I personally think it tops God of War on this front. On the tech that was used, I think it's much more complex than God of War was. And so far,
More of an executive summary than a score, but I like it.
Yeah.
Evan, what would you score?
Scores hard. I will say it was my 6th best game
of 2018.
Of 2018. So there were 5 games that I thought were better than it. God of War being my number one.
Yakuza 6.
Yakuza 0.
There are marvelous
games that didn't come out in 2018. No, I mean I liked it. The story is what kept me going for sure. Arthur Morgan's one of the best characters, but like my problem that's been this kind of the thread through this entire thing is like I think Rockstar is so close to everything that they're doing that they just do not know when to hold back and take out and trim the fat of stuff that just does not need to be in a video game. And it definitely held this game back for me in a lot of ways, where I got a 4K TV on like a 55-inch OLED just in February, and I was like, I beat the game last year on my 1080p TV. I was like, I'm going to re-download the game. Went into the game, and I rode 20 minutes to find a legendary animal, dicked around for 15 minutes, and then finally a little thing pops up in the top left hand of the screen. There's too much activity in this area to find the legendary animal. I was like, this game's fucking wasting my time, and I deleted it right there. And that's the reason why it was the 6th best game, because all that stuff held it back for me way too much. They need to trim the fat in their next game. Keith, how about yourself?
7.8.
That's a good score.
Very precise.
That's the Damiani score, isn't it?
7.8.
Yeah, 7.8 is Damiani with what the fuck was that game? He pissed off so many people with that.
Oh, is it the Wind Waker HD?
Maybe.
Yeah.
There's so going from Matt. You must know about zero-based budgeting.
Maybe.
So if you're talking about budgeting, you start at 0 and then you go through all the things that you want, and all the things that you need, and then all the things that you want to build a budget for how you want to deliver anything.
Okay.
Right. When I do reviews, which I don't write reviews, I just talk about shit. So when I'm talking about games, I do it the other way around. So I start at 10 and then take stuff off for things that I don't like.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
So if this is not a perfect game, there are technical and gameplay choices that are made that undermine your ability to experience the game in a way that is more fun than it is. So I'd take a couple of points off for that.
Okay.
I'm going to ignore online, because if I did, it would probably be around a 4.
So I'm just saying, taking those technical elements out, the story is absolutely amazing. I'd give it probably a 7 just for the story and side quest elements.
Okay.
And then probably bump it up a bit for all the stuff that they built into the world and how good it looks.
Yeah.
And but I can't go higher than an 8 because of those elements that take you out of the world and all the stupid shit that they asked you to do for no good reason.
I think that's fair. That's a very fair score. I might be around the same.
Yeah.
All right. The only way that I can buy this game is if I buy Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice for my wife,
which I've nearly finished. I'm nearly partway through that.
Play that game. That game is absolutely amazing. It's so good. Very easy platinum, by the way. It's very easy platinum.
Well, my wife wants to play that game, so if I get Red Dead for $45, if I pick up Hellblade, she'll be happy.
That's a deal.
That's a very good deal. And on that note, gentlemen, I might buy Red Dead 2, and we're out.